Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday, Linda. Nice to see you again.
Yes, good to see you. And I love our topic today, procrastination. It's a good one.
You love it. So let's talk about that. You love procrastination.
No, I love talking about it. Well, I was thinking about it when we said that's what we were going to talk about. I was thinking about, so do I procrastinate? And sometimes it has to be said, sometimes I do, I think. And then I was asking myself, okay, so when do I procrastinate and why? So that got me into thinking about, okay, so what is procrastination and why do we do it and all of those things. So, it's just, what is it? Just putting things off that you want to do. And I think we procrastinate when either it's something we don't want to do that's uncomfortable, or perhaps we're afraid of the result, what's going to happen once we do this thing. Or it could be avoidance. Maybe we're procrastinating because we're avoiding something that either might be good for us or whatever the reason is. And then I was trying to think about why, when I procrastinate, why is that usually? And it's an interesting question, because sometimes I know, let's say there might be something I want to do, and I know it's something that I do want to do and it's good for me, but I allow myself to prioritize other things. And so I have to then ask myself the question, how important is this to you? And then just make the decision that, okay, yeah, this is actually more important than that other thing that I was giving my time to. But I think it's a complicated, maybe I'm going around in circles here, but I think it's something that our brain sometimes just naturally causes us to procrastinate on something. But I think we have the ability to identify that, to ask ourselves what's really going on, and then make a choice about what we really want to do. So maybe that's too much discussion about, maybe I've made it too complicated, but that's my thinking on it at the moment. So what do you think?
Well, I agree with you. So I have another reason why I sometimes procrastinate, and that is rebellion. When I'm either rebelling against something or I rebel against myself. But I think, all it comes down to is it's something we're either scared of doing or we don't want to do, And it has. Say again?
Yeah, because we might not be scared of the actual thing that we're doing.
No, but whatever it creates, yeah. But I mean, we could, for example, it's right now tax season, and I know most countries have pushed out the deadline some, but it doesn't make things better. No, it's like because we're still going to procrastinate with the taxes. Whether
just put it off 2 months more.
Yeah, we all should have had it ready by the 15th of April, but now they pushed it out. So now we're waiting again until 2 hours before the new deadline, before we're doing it or something. And it's actually it's like funny, because like you said, you have to think about whether you're doing the procrastination or not. And I feel like we all procrastinate at some time, some people more and some less. And I can totally see that I do procrastinate sometime. And the crazy thing in a way is, like, when I was thinking about when I procrastinate, it is often with things that are important or are important to me. And how do I procrastinate? By doing everything and anything that is actually not important. And when you think about, like, when you really step out of this stupid cycle and you look at it, you really think, like, why the heck am I doing it? And I feel like this is the, I mean, it doesn't solve anything yet, but like anything, awareness is a big thing, no? And then also the inside, why am I doing it? And then with taxes, I would say, and I come from finance and I don't like taxes, but I feel like for a lot of people, procrastinating on the taxes is a form of rebellion. Whether they're like, but it is just it's something that it's just, especially if you have your own business, it's just something that finances is something that goes with it. And the more you fight against it, and That says the one who can also procrastinate on taxes.
Yeah.
I'm never late, but I can see myself, if I'm not careful, it's not something that I like to do. So just becoming aware why we're doing it, and actually also the consequences, and not so much just the consequences, what happens when you're not turning in your taxes in time, but the consequences on you, like bringing it back to you again, or me, like if I talk about me. When we're procrastinating, especially with something like taxes that we have such an aversion against, most people do, we're actually punishing ourselves even more with this stupid task. You know, it's like, it's even longer, it's even harder, it's even more annoying. It gives us in the end sleepless nights possibly, you know, and in a way it's so counterproductive when you think about it.
Well, it's so, it creates so much stress. Well, and it's interesting because you're the finance person, and that you said that you do procrastinate on taxes. Now, see, I'm not a finance person. I don't like numbers very much. I mean, I do things, you know, but I don't enjoy it at all. And because of that, I make sure I'm really, really organized with it. So I have a bookkeeper who does everything. And so once a quarter, I just send her all my stuff. She makes sure my books are up to date. And then I want to get that thing off to the accountant to do the taxes as soon as possible in the year. As soon as I can possibly do that, I do that, because it's a stressful thing for me anyway, or it would be, you know, and so I want to be as organized as I can with it, so that I don't create any more stress for myself. Now, I know people, I know one person, when she had her business, she used to, and she's actually a good finance person, but she would keep all her receipts in a shoebox. She would keep everything in a shoebox. And then, I mean, just like maybe a week before tax deadline or something like that, she would get that thing out, and there would, you know, all the receipts everywhere, and it would be a frantic, you know, trying to get everything ready. Just the idea of that really stresses me out. So, I mean, I think for me, if I know something's going to be really uncomfortable, I won't procrastinate on it. I'd rather just get it out of the way.
Which is nicer to yourself. That's kind of what I mean. It's nicer to yourself.
Yeah, I never really thought of it in that way. But where I do procrastinate, like you said at the beginning, is on things that I want to do that I know are good for me.
Yeah.
But I tend to prioritize other things or other people very often over the things that I want to do.
I want to say two things to that. So back to the taxes. I procrastinate on the taxes because I'm very organized, because I am from finance and I'm a very organized person. So I know it doesn't take long. So this is the other trap, you know, because I'm so organized. I know it doesn't take long. So it's kind of like it comes last, because I kind of like, whatever, you know. But it's silly still, because I still have it. When I was thinking about it, like, even though I know and have it under control and I'm always on time and I am more organized, it's not stressing me out. It is more, for me, that's the rebellion part kind of thing. Like, I would have it already, but I'm like, oh, it can wait. It's kind of like that. The other thing I want to say is when and I actually have way more situations where I procrastinate when it's something really important and something important to me. And I feel like that is where we really have to pay attention, because it is important to me, but I choose to do everything else. I choose to do things for other people first. I choose to do all the silly things first, checking emails, cleaning the toilet, doing the dishes, whatever else comes in my mind, before I do the thing that is important to me. And I feel that has something to do with us not feeling important enough ourselves, or not having the self-worth, or we're not prioritizing ourselves. And this is where I think where it's where we maybe can get the angle in, because once we're learning that these things, we are allowed to put ourselves first and do these things that are important to us first, then we may also recognize that when we're procrastinating because of rebellion, like me, or because of avoidance, that we're actually not doing us any good. and then we may do way less and less procrastinate. But I feel like in the end, we're all humans. No, there will be always, it's like having clutter. I always say, like, everybody has clutter somewhere. There is too many areas in your life where you can have clutter. You will have somewhere. And I feel like with procrastination, it's similar. You may not always procrastinate in the same area. Maybe sometimes you procrastinate with health, or like with eating healthy, exercising, or whatever. Another time you procrastinate with something different.
Yeah. Well, and one other thing that I thought of is that what I encounter a lot when I'm working with people is they'll get very frustrated with themselves because they're procrastinating on something and they're not getting something done that they feel they should be doing. And when we start digging a little bit, what we find is that it's because what they're doing or what they think they should be doing is not really what they want to be doing.
Yeah.
And so that it comes about as a result of them not being clear within themselves on what it is they really want and what is important to them. And so they're doing what they think is important. And that's when they procrastinate, because there's not really an alignment with who they are and what they want to be doing. So it's important to have a clear sense of what is important to you and what you do want to do. But the other thing I wanted to add is it is interesting, as you pointed out, that when we don't do things that are important to us and we're procrastinating on them and not doing them, I think it does come when you have that core belief of I'm not good enough in some way. And that's something
not important enough.
Right. And that's a belief that I have and have worked on most of my life. And it's I don't think that's ever something that necessarily really goes away when you have that core belief that is kind of deep inside you. But it just shows up in your life in different ways, and procrastinating on things that are really important to you and you do really want to do can be a way of that showing up.
Yeah. I'm just reading a book. It's called Think Again by Adam Grant. And he in there says about that women often suffer more of like also imposter syndrome, or feeling like they're not important or they're not competent enough or all that. And I feel like this society or how we're socialized, let's say like that. It's not necessarily the society, but just how we're socialized as women. We're always kind of socialized that we're helping, or like we see it in our own mother who takes care of the whole family and puts herself last. It is also kind of like the mother who puts herself last is put on a pedestal. Like, oh, she's all her life she looked after everybody else and never took a minute for herself, and we think this is glorified, so no wonder, or we think this is something to achieve, and so no wonder we sometimes have trouble too if something is important to us to actually do that, because there's always something that you could do for somebody else, no? And then you have this idol maybe that, oh, a good mother or a good woman puts everybody else first, and then if there is some time left, which there is not because there's always somebody, then she can do something for herself. And I feel like that is a little bit what we're also against up, and if we're not careful, we're just slipping into that and burning ourselves out in process.
That's certainly how many of us were brought up, and I know I was, that you do put yourself last. You think about everybody else first, and we're taught that it was selfish to focus on what it was that we wanted. Well, of course, we now know that it's the opposite, selfish. But it is interesting how often I've seen, and I'm sure I've done it, but where people, something is really important to someone, but they almost kind of sabotage themselves so that they I know what came to mind. I was thinking about remembering when I did a retreat type event, and this one person who came to the retreat, her primary reason for coming was because of one of the topics that I was covering at the retreat. And that was the driving force for her signing up. And that's what she wanted to attend. And she was very diligent. She showed up for everything else. That particular topic, when we were covering that topic, she wasn't there. Something came up and she was doing, you know, so she prioritized something else. So the whole reason for her coming there, you know, really, she missed it. And it's fascinated me, you know, that we can do that to ourselves and not even be aware that we're doing it. How it shows up. But
it's so hard to watch from the outside too. It's like when you see somebody, like I see that sometimes with when I help my clients with decluttering and they're so stressed out with the chaos around them, but they find everything else and to do instead of that, and then they're still stressed out, and then they're even more stressed out because they later then realize, oh, I didn't do it, and they still can't do it. And it's it's deep rooted, I feel, sometimes in women, because we're brought up that way, and because I think even today still we sometimes hear not just our inner voice saying we're selfish, but there might be still people out there also saying we're selfish, and then it becomes even more difficult. I just know, like, when you look on social media, sometimes when there was this discussion on LinkedIn the other week, like a week or two ago, where they were talking about how we write, oh, this is a female CEO or this is a woman CEO, and we're like, why do we have to mention this kind of like these things? Or, oh, she is a CEO even though she has 2 children at home. I mean, we would never say that about a man, no? And things like this. And this is the messages that come, and then we may not even be conscious that they're influencing us. They might be unconscious, and that's how we then sabotage ourselves. The unconscious sabotages, because we have all these crazy messages.
Yeah, we're conditioned to see things a certain way. Absolutely. So I think the question is, well, first of all, to be aware of when you might be procrastinating. And the question is, how is it serving you? How is it showing up, and how is it affecting you? Because if it's causing you problems, then you need to understand it a little more and ask yourself, perhaps, okay, why am I choosing this over this when I'm saying that this is particularly important to me, but I'm choosing this over that? Or I'm avoiding this, or whatever it is. Always, everything, I think, comes down to self-awareness, always, to recognize, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is how it's affecting me, is this what I want? And if it is not what I want, then what do I need to do about it? How can I change it? How can I change what I'm thinking? But you can't do that if you're not aware. So I think that just paying attention to ourselves, how we feel, and how we feel about what's going on in our life situations, and what we're doing and what we're not doing, and just being honest with ourselves, because I think we can easily not be honest with ourselves. It's very easy to do that.
And I feel like I totally agree. Awareness comes first, but then we also have to do something. I really like, and I feel like when we're avoiding, for example, we're avoiding something because it looks scary, it looks overwhelming, or whatever. One of the things, and this is why I always say, like, a few minutes a day keeps the chaos away. We need to find the smallest thing that we can do that is not scary, so that we actually start moving, because the hardest part is from standstill to moving, no? And so, and I'm not saying, like, if we just do a little bit, then we always only do a little bit, but we need to get out of it. We need to take action. Sometimes we need to take action even if we're not 100% comfortable, because but and also learn that where we are sitting now is not comfortable either when we're procrastinating, and a lot of people don't recognize anymore how uncomfortable they are in the situation they are in, because they're in it so long already. It feels so familiar. And it feels not so familiar to be uncomfortable when you're moving forward, but it's also uncomfortable. So both is uncomfortable. It's just one is more familiar than the other. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, and also I think we can procrastinate because something seems so big, and
Yeah.
where do you start? I can remember when we were moving one time, and we were going to start packing things up and starting in one particular room which had a lot of stuff in it. And I can remember we went into the room and my husband says, "Oh my gosh, is this going to take forever? Oh, what are we going to do?" And I said, "Well, we just start. You just start with one thing."
Yeah.
And the thing is, before we knew it, we'd done it.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I mean.
Yeah, but you think, when you look at the whole thing, you think, "Oh, this is going to be so long, it's going to be so big, it's going to be so hard."
Yeah.
And you can stand there thinking that, or you can just start with something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that old saying. So how do you eat an elephant? Which I don't
Yes.
eat elephants, but how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time,
Yeah.
So it's basically the elephant in the room that you need to eat.
Yeah.
No, but it's true. And this is where I'm saying you just have to start, because if you don't, the hardest part is from zero to doing something. Everything that comes afterwards is gonna be already easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then you build momentum, and it's amazing how something that seems so daunting and big and difficult can actually be quite simple once you get started. Well, and that's something else that I've learned, is that when I'm feeling that way, when I'm about to do something and it feels overwhelming and difficult and I don't really know where to start, I'll just ask myself, how can I make this easy for myself and enjoyable? Yeah. And if I go into something with that mindset, rather than the mindset of, "Oh, I'm not going to do this, how it's going to be hard," then it does seem to come more easily, and I even enjoy it, so I think we can always shift our mindset from "this is too difficult, I don't know how to start, I don't know what to do," to "how can I make this easier for myself? How can I enjoy this, even though it seems like something I'm not going to enjoy? How can I make it more enjoyable?" And I think we can.
And totally, I see, that's exactly also when you then start noticing that not doing anything and procrastinating more is really not making it easy on yourself.
Right. Well,
this is making things harder on yourself.
It is, and that's what we don't realize, is that the more we procrastinate, the more we put it off, the more stress we create for ourselves. And if we thought something was stressful in the beginning, the more you put it off, the more stress you create. So and it just builds on itself. So if you want to make life easier for yourself and give yourself permission to do that, then like you said, you just got to start and do something and have the mindset of, okay, I'm going to allow this to be easier and even enjoyable.
Yeah.
And it can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're back to the taxes. Everybody should just start and do their taxes even before the new deadline is approaching and bringing us into a frenzy again.
Yeah. Well, and it was interesting what you said about because you know how to do it, and it comes more easily to you than most.
Yeah.
That can be a reason that you put it off. And for me, because it becomes more difficult, I see it as a more difficult task. I want it out of the way.
And both reasons are, when you look from the outside, a little like not your reason, but like putting it off because it's difficult, and also putting it off because it's easy. Both are kind of like a little silly, no? Well, and I just wanted to say that here, because so many people think that by putting off taxes, this is terrible, and you are a finance person, so you're not doing this. Well, yeah, I do. But for me, that's why I said it's rebellion. It's like nobody likes to pay taxes, but I mean, there's strategies how you can make it easier on yourself. And I'm just very well aware that I sometimes do procrastinate. But
well,
this is where
awareness is the key.
Yeah, awareness, exactly. And then you just do it. And we also have to remember how much better we feel once it's done. It's like this huge weight falls off of us, especially like when people have these huge tax fears and need to, like you said, that person you knew with the things just in a box, like that is crazy. But I had in my career clients, they didn't even had it in a box, that to them I had to say, your next goal for next year is to actually put everything into a box. They didn't even have it in a box. That was even worse. We hunted in the whole office to try to find it, and that is crazy stressful. So with them I went, your goal is to have everything in a box next year, and then the year again then we have it a little bit categorized. But so there is crazy strategies we sometimes come up with to torture ourselves when we can just make life easier.
Well, and one other thing I wanted to say is sometimes we procrastinate because we just have too much on our plate, and it's overwhelming for that reason. And I think one of the things sometimes, especially for women, is to give ourselves permission to ask for help, and not try to be superwoman and do everything. Sometimes you need to ask for help, and it's okay to do that.
But that's another one that comes from society, that you're super mom or superwoman and you can do it all. You can work a full-time job and run the whole household and have 3 children and everything, and you're still looking beautiful and all relaxed. Like when you just pay a little bit of attention, that's often it's still kind of like, we all kind of know it's not possible, and it's still kind of the ideal, though.
Well, these are our thoughts on procrastination, and if you are on Facebook Live, I can't see any comments, but if you want to post,
I looked before and there was nobody, but I don't want to get all distracted when I talk.
No, I know that's a hard thing. So if anybody wants to comment on this and just share your thoughts on procrastination with us, then we will get back to you and respond to any comments afterwards, just that we can't see them. But,
that's the disadvantage when you're going in through Zoom, then you really don't see much.
There are pluses and minuses to it, but anyway. So,
okay, well, as always, it was lovely chatting with you.
Get your taxes done. Are they done now, or you still got to do them?
They just have to be submitted. They're done.
Okay, good.
Now that they're done, they just need to be submitted.
All right. Okay, we'll have a wonderful weekend, and I'll catch up with you next week.
You too.
Okay.
See everybody next week. Bye-bye.